Hi, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about something that is just so very important, especially as empaths. So, if you're watching this video, an empath is somebody who is really able to connect to the energy around them and feel deeply into it. So, I am a person who feels everything around me. If I'm in a situation and I hear a conversation, I can feel the energy of the conversation. I had no idea that this is what I was for a very, very long part of my life, but I've come to understand it. And one of the most important parts, I think, today that I want to talk about is the importance of your resonance. So we resonate energy around us. Like everything resonates in energy. Like my lipstick resonates in energy. My AirPods, if you think about the energy that's going between both of them so that they can communicate to one another, there's energy that's communicating them to one another. And in the same way, we are constantly communicating our energy out to other people, and they are communicating it to us. It's not just a human to human thing either. There's energy in concepts. So if you take a concept like the Black Lives Matters movement that's going on right now, there's an energy behind that. Some people resonate with that energy. They feel a similarity of vibration with that concept, with that movement. There's other people who are really repelled by that. So everything, people, places, concepts, ideas, songs, everything has a resonance. It has a vibrational place where it sits and how it's triggering back and forth and interacting with its environment. So resonance is like the the way that we are vibrating our energy, and how big that is, how small that is. And we're going to talk in a little bit. I'll show you an emotional scale so we can talk about where that falls in a way that's actually measurable. But today, what I wanted to say is that, resonance is the thing that we're striving for. So we want really badly to resonate with abundance and prosperity and love and good health and lots of travel and experiences. And we want to be this expansive version of ourselves. And in the desire to be that, we begin to look outside of ourselves, because the matrix that we live in, that we've been born into, and that we've all agreed to as a collective, it's become this collective belief system, this collective grid on the earth. That collective holds the belief that in order to feel that good, you have to look outside of yourself. And that's just what's been built up for many, many years. We've all agreed to it. So we seek out the career that's outside of ourselves that will give us purpose and meaning. We seek out the mate that will make us feel like, we're very, very loved. We seek out the car that will signal to others that we've made it, that we are abundant. We seek out the right body so that we can communicate to others that we're good. Pretty much everything we're seeking is to make us feel good, believe we're good, just to feel good. Now, as an empath, there's that word feel again. We're feeling things all the time. So if you're resonating with this, you're starting to understand that there's this way that we are feeling into the world around us, that our resonance is what we exude. It's also what other things exude. And our desire to feel really good historically has come from going outside of ourselves. Now, if you've been on any type of spiritual path ever, if you follow any of the ascended masters or any of the scriptures or any type of belief system, you will know that the goal and aim of most of those practices and those schools of thought are to ascend and to get out of that mindset, to grow beyond that matrix, and to find instead that spiritual, strong, heart-centered, loving resonance through your dedication to the religion or to internal practices. So as a yogi, you're taught that as you continue to work through your yogic path. And I'm talking yoga, big yoga, like 8-limbed yoga, not just I get on my mat and move my body, but all of yoga. That as you move through all those different parts, there's like a recipe to get to a place called samadhi, where you are in complete bliss. And that is the best resonance. It's the one we seek. It's the one where we wish for nothing. So the really cool thing that I've been figuring out lately is that it isn't through, at least for me, it isn't through necessarily a religious path or a what am I going to achieve for myself path that I'm finding my happiest resonance. My happiest resonance is happening when I choose it. So legitimately just choosing to feel happy sounds like, all right, well, there's days when you wake up and you have anxiety or you feel like crap. How do you just choose to be happy in that situation? We're going to go through that in a little bit. Um, my point is that the idea of wanting to resonate in a high vibing way does not come from anything outside of us. I know we've been told this over and over again. We're like, yeah. It's really deeply ingrained in us that it does come from outside of us. So we have to be willing to carve away at all of the stories, all of the contracts that we've made, the ways that we've agreed to that programming, so that we can pull back our own power and say, wait, no, it's not anything outside of me. It's in here. This is where my resonance comes from. It comes from how I feel about my exact moment that I'm standing in right now, and the next moment, and the next moment, and the next moment. My resonance comes from how I am growing each moment, how I am breathing each breath, how I am interacting, speaking, thinking, what I'm focusing on. These are all things that build my resonance, and my resonance comes from inside of me. So we are missing the point when we look outside of ourselves, for sure. I have some notes because otherwise I'll go all over the place and not be able to focus. So the other thing that happens when we put the solution to feeling good outside of us is that it often doesn't come. And we keep thinking, okay, pretty soon I'm going to feel that way. Pretty soon I'm going to feel abundant. Pretty soon I'm going to get in shape. Pretty soon I'm going to feel healthy. Pretty soon I'm going to find that partner that I want. And we just keep chasing and chasing and chasing after something. And while we're chasing, we're actually lowering our vibration because we're continually putting into this system the pattern of, I don't have it, I can't get it. So we start to kind of like adapt that as our storyline. Like, oh gosh, I really want this thing, but God, how am I going to get it? How am I going to find freedom? How am I going to find abundance? How am I going to find good health? Is it ever going to happen? So when we put it outside of ourselves, we make it even harder to find it. And in the difficulty, we begin to add negativity into our system. What people don't ever tell us, because, and we'll get to why, is that this power that we have inside of us, like we are magnificent, let's call it human computers. We have this technology, especially as an empath, but all people have this technology to create from within. It's what makes us human beings, and what makes us part of God, is that we have this creatrix inside of us, this like creator energy. And we have this ability to not only emit a resonance, but to sense the resonance from other beings, other ideas, other places. So there's this technology that we have where we're constantly moving and interacting with our environment around us. And you can tell that in a conversation, in the relationships of your life, in your work experience, how different situations feel different. There's different dynamics involved in all of that. Our ability then to feel into the situation around us is a magnificent technology. It's this incredible thing that we have. It's like the newest 5G or 8G, whatever it is. We have this great ability to feel the world around us. But what we have not been, I think, educated enough to know how to do, at least I haven't, is to sense into that world around us, bring back the information, and not just react in this instinctual way, but to actually like use the information wisely. So what I think happens for empaths before we even know that we're an empath, or once we know but we haven't quite figured all the details of it out yet, is that we go into a situation with our feelers out. We feel into everybody, and we feel who needs what. Oh, that person needs confidence, and that person needs a little affection, and that person, and we understand how to like work the situation and understand what we're feeling from those people. And what we do is we're automatically transmuting that energy inside of us. But what we do sometimes is we change us to make that situation feel better, because we understand innately inside of us as human beings, we understand how we want to feel good. So we'll look at all these situations and we'll say like, okay, well, how can I feel into these situations and adjust in some way to make it better, like to make it improved. And the technology is magnificent, but when you're using any technology in the wrong way, you're going to self-destruct. And so what often happens with empaths is we get connected to an energy that's really strong. It's like a bigger resonance than us. And we feel comfortable stepping into that resonance sometimes because it has a sense of confidence that maybe we don't necessarily have. And we allow it to take over our being. And that's kind of where that empath narcissist dynamic comes in. It's also where we begin to feel small. And we forget that when we're absorbing from the outside and we're sensing what's happening around us, we totally forget that we also have the power to emit from inside out. And we start to get into this pattern where we're just reacting to the world outside of us. We're taking it in, we're reacting, we're taking it in, we're reacting, we're taking it in, taking it in, taking it in. We wake up in the morning and we wonder, oh gosh, what is the world gonna like do today? How am I gonna, navigate today's challenges, and how am I gonna like stay alive? I mean, for a long time when I was in a situation of like massive transition in my life, I would legit wake up every morning and be like, oh my God, how am I going to keep my head above water today? Like, how am I going to keep breathing? And it was like that bad for a while. I don't feel that way anymore, which is fantastic. But when you're in that position, it's really hard to have any sense of empowerment, or, at that point I had totally forgotten that I have this power inside of me to find pleasure. Like just when you're traumatized and you're going through a very difficult time, pleasure seems so hard to access. It seems so hard to figure out, like, what do I want? Because you're focused on how am I going to survive? And when you're in survival mode, you can't also be in thrive mode. Those can't exist at the same time. They're very different energies. They're very different vibrations. Okay. So that stuff's inside of us, and there's a reason why we're not taught how to use it. So imagine that we were born as babies, and from the very beginning, we are taught that we are magic. Like, just from the beginning, you're magic. You can create anything. You can walk, you can giggle, you can sing songs, you can read. I mean, nothing seems like it has to be worked toward. There's no lack involved ever. There's no worry about safety or anything like that. So if we just were born and just like told that we were this magnificent being, and the society around us, everybody was living that way. We had all this visual evidence all the time, auditory evidence all the time, that we lived in a kind world and a supportive world and a peaceful world, and that everything was abundant, that there was no need to strive for food or care or love or affection or acceptance or warmth or clothing or anything at all. Everything is provided for us. If that was our actual default mechanism that we were brought into this world believing, I think that our world would look like heaven on earth. It would be paradise. People would be creating just for the sake of creating. They would be loving just because why not? It would just be so lovely. Competition would be there in a fun way where it would be like, hey, guess what? I just created this amazing thing. And then your friend would be like, well, I'm going to go create one just as amazing. It would be like a fun, like a kindly competitive situation when it came to getting ahead, or like inventing things and being this creator. But we're not taught that. That's not how we are when we're born here on earth. Well, as soon as we're born, we're kind of taught that this is a dangerous world and it's about survival. You need to stay close to your mom. You need to not get lost in the store. You need to buckle your seatbelt or your car seat. Depending on our households where we've lived, maybe food is hard to come by. Very, very often, like more often than I wish to admit, I think that we are programmed to want connection. And very often, just because of today's world, maybe a child doesn't quite get the attention and the deep recognition of who they are from their parents, and not necessarily because their parents are awful humans, but because the way that this lack matrix is set up is that, mom and dad both have to work just to be able to afford the house over that child's head, and the food and the clothing, and just so much energy literally in a day is put toward survival that we, as parents, there might not be enough energy left over to fully satisfy what a child really needs. in an emotional way, even in a physical way with touch. Um, so our society has been set up to keep us in lack, in survival mode for always, like for always. You don't all of a sudden hit age 21 and you no longer have to do the survival thing, or you no longer hit like even retirement. I mean, it used to be that people would retire and they'd be able to like live well, go golf, go to the beach, have your other house somewhere. And that's not even the case anymore. You see more and more people of retirement age who, because of our financial system, which is a whole other story, our financial system has been put in place to keep us imprisoned. There's a story that there's not enough. Everybody needs to keep working. This might go away. That might go away. Things might get bad. You might not have enough. What would you do? And there's a pride part of that too. What would you do if you didn't have enough? Like, who is there to turn to? Everybody has been put into this lack matrix system so that we have to strive. And in order to strive, we're giving our power away to industry, to the workplace, to all kinds of things. We're giving our energy to the concept of survival all the time, right? So our resonance, the way that we are resonating when we are in survival mode, is not the same as how we resonate when we are in thriving mode. So quick example, if you are a person who works a pretty steady like 9 to 5 job, you work a full-time job, and you finally get that week off in the summer and you get to go to the beach, let's say, or the mountains, wherever you like to vacation. But you finally get that time to just be in choice, where you get to choose what time to wake up in the morning. You get to choose how you're going to structure your day. You get to choose what you're eating, if you have 3 drinks that day, or go on a jet ski, or climb the mountain, or zip line down something. You get all this choice and freedom. And it's like, oh my God, vacation is amazing. Like, you want to be on vacation every day of your life. And then you realize, day 7, back to work. And your energy goes from being this like big, blossoming, high vibing, good thing to, oh God, I have to go back to the rat race. I got to go back to work, and we drop our resonance. So the survival matrix that we live in, it counts on us being in that low vibe. When we are low vibing, we are generally in things like fear, stress, anger, frustration, jealousy. Those are really low vibes. And it's hard for us to pop out of low vibe into high vibe on our own. So if you're an empath and you are experiencing that same story, just imagine quadrupling the effect of all of that. So if you are always feeling into the situations around you, feeling into the people around you, believing that your source is outside of you, the source of feeling good is outside of you, and you live in that story, it's going to be really hard to feel good. Really hard. I just realized that I've spent like 40 plus years in that matrix feeling that way, wondering, why do I feel like this? Why do I not feel good? And it's because I was constantly reading, and I'm so good at reading into that stuff, which I understand now is this beautiful gift I have, but I didn't know that at the time. But I kept wondering, like, oh my God, I have such a good heart, and I have these desires, and I have all these skills, and blah, 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 all these reasons why I should be feeling good and why I should be doing better in the matrix. And I realize now that, like, whoa, none of that out there is even true. It's all contrived. It's all a trap. It's made to trap us so that our energy can be harvested. And that goes from everything from the financial world to sexuality, to gender, to racism, to political things, to your relationship with money. I mean, across the board, we're prisoners in that way, until we realize what I'm talking about today, which is we have control over our own resonance. So no matter what the program is out there, we get to decide. It is like waking up every day and thinking that you have to wear the same outfit. Like every day, gotta wear the same outfit, put it on in the same order, underclothes, shirt, pants, tie, all that stuff. Or all of a sudden being told, like, you can wear whatever you want. Once you realize that, you're like, I can wear whatever I want. Like, oh my gosh, that means that like I can be comfy if I want, I can feel formal, I can look sexy, I can look um, approachable, I can look respectable, I can look all these different ways. Like I have the ability to create my own outfit, my own wardrobe. Holy cow. Like that's what it feels like when you realize that you have control over your own resonance. So I have little notes on my phone here. My phone keeps dropping. So we've talked about how the matrix definitely does not want you to know that you have control over your own power, because you will become a threat to them. So as soon as we realize that we have the power to choose our own wardrobe in that way, we have the power to choose our own happiness from nothing out there, then all of a sudden we become like the rebellious child who just doesn't want to buy stuff anymore because it doesn't matter, because I've realized that buying stuff, having just the right clothes or just the right furniture or just the right car, I realized that that doesn't mean anything. And it's actually causing me more stress to be in the rat race on the little hamster wheel of trying to keep those things. We've gone into such debt as Americans trying to like buy stuff, buy into our happiness. So once we realize that we are the actual emitter of our life rather than just being the sensor of our life. So instead of taking in and reacting to it, we are the creator. We are the one that's putting out what our experience is. We are putting our own clothes on. We are stepping out into the world as ourselves, and we are designing each moment. We're designing the conversations we have. We're designing the people that we interact with. We are choosing with this resonance, with our energy, with our goodness, this feeling of, it's delicious, like the sensation inside of us. We are choosing with that energy how to spend every minute. Like, who am I going to have a conversation with that feels really good and delicious? Am I going to spend time just talking to somebody because it seems like the right thing to do? Like I should do it. Am I going to spend time watching that TV show? Am I going to dial into the news and watch all of that? Am I going to read that book? Am I going to blah, blah, blah? It goes on and on and on. We can choose with this energy of being the creator, being the outward force, how we are going to put our energy. How am I going to spend my energy on the world outside of me? And I'm going to do that because I've gone through a healing process where I understand who I am inside and what I need and what matters most to me. So when I am spending that energy, I know that I want to spend it in a way that comes back to me. It is a win-win situation. So I am putting it out so that I can feel good on the inside. And I want to incorporate that whomever I'm interacting with is also going to be a winner in that dynamic, which is a big, big deal when it comes to being in the lack matrix. In the lack matrix, my teacher says this all the time, that somebody always has to lose. So you put money out for something, you get something back, but somehow there's still a loser in there, whether it's the earth or the child laborer who had to put your clothing together for a penny a day, or the political background behind the dynamic. I'm putting gasoline in my car. So yeah, I'm winning because my car works. Gas company is winning because they're getting money. But what kind of arms deal was created in order for that gasoline to appear in my car? So the lack matrix does not include win, 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 win for everybody. But we, knowing that we have this ability, can become a creator of situations where everybody is winning. Like what we do, how we speak, it is always going to be based in high vibration, which is joy, creation, excitement, love, respect, cooperation, ways that people can all feel good in a situation, the way that the earth can benefit from it, animals can benefit from it, the economy can benefit from it. Okay, so I'm going off on a tangent. I gotta reel myself back in. I get all excited. So we've talked about how nobody would be drawn to anything outside of us if we could understand that it all comes from within, if we could understand how our technology is all about our interacting with the environment around us and our resonance with it. And so I just wanted to tell a story too about, two things. So one is when we interact, remember that story about when we were a little kid, if we can be born into a world where everything is pleasant and supportive, and if we had that feeling of the universe has our back kind of feeling as a young child, we would be very different beings right now. But what happens is when we're young, we are having situations that have a negative feeling. Like we do something, like let's say we accidentally throw something down the stairs and it breaks, and then we get screamed at by our family because you broke grandma's favorite vase or something. I don't know. But we realized that, oh my God, I did something that felt fun, maybe like as a little toddler. It's just fun to throw things down and watch them crash. They don't know any better. I did something that felt fun, and that equaled punishment. It equaled shame. It equaled a separation from my mom, who I could feel her being angry at me, and I could almost feel a feeling of not being loved in that moment, of being hated almost in that moment. So we begin to create these connections in our mind, in our psychology, where we believe that, oh gosh, if I do something out of fun and joy, it might create anger in another person, and I'm just going to give another example of that. So same thing as I've heard a lot of my friends talk about this, and I think I've experienced it too, if I can dig back in my memory enough. As a little girl, you might have this like urge to be a certain way inside of you. Like you might want to be more of a tomboy. You might want to be like roughing it a little bit more. This is probably more in my generation. You might choose to be kind of loud and obnoxious. And there's this societal thing that's like, nah, we don't want that from you. Like we want you to be like polite, and there isn't yelling around here, and like, why don't you go brush your hair? So there's this thing where if we do get messages like that from our family or our school community, our church, whatever it might be at the time, whoever our community is, there's this feeling too of, oh, I tried to be who I was feeling like in that moment, and I was told that that wasn't a good idea. So these little contracts begin to develop in our mind from a time that we are really little. And psychologists say that I think a lot of that stuff, I think it's by age 7 that are kind of like we're formed in our mind, like the way that we believe the world to be is formed in our mind around age 7. And so if you think about the things that maybe happened to you before age 7, like those little contracts that you developed, and it continues on. It continues on as, when you're going through school, what happens as a student in a school where you're kind of being controlled, asked to stand in lines, this is the right answer, that's the wrong answer. Depending on your education, it can really shape you as well. And then, as a teenager, what that looked like as you went through puberty, if you went on to maybe like college or whatever you did after high school, what happened in those jobs or in those educational spheres, what did it mean to do well on tests? What did it mean to climb the ladder in corporate America? All that stuff. It all contributes to these little contracts that we have, and the contracts build up inside of us until we have this connection to this lack matrix where we truly believe that the world around us has kind of the power over us, and that we have to be a certain way, we have to behave a certain way, we have to make sure that we are in agreement with the other people around us and functioning in a certain behavioral pattern in order to like make it, to be successful, to be accepted, loved, taken care of, given our share. So those little shadow contracts are something that while we're on the path of healing, we need to look at those things, and we need to be willing to go in and do work with those. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But I just want to point out that part of this resonance feeling that we're talking about, and I'm going to get to the scale in just a second, part of this resonance thing is that those contracts keep us low vibrational. They keep us trapped, and they keep us disempowered, and they keep us tethered to a system that we can often feel inside of us is not right, not correct, not real, like not our truth. But we're so tethered into it because it's the world that we live in, and it's what we think we need to do to survive. So in a minute, when we go on to the vibrational scale, that's like the lower end of the vibrational scale is being tied into those patterns of belief. And those patterns of belief occur, again, over the course of our entire life. And it's based on these like contracts that we've made, these agreements that we've had with the system. So, okay, I'm going to do the vibrational scale quick because I think that's a good idea. So screen share this guy. All right. Hopefully this works. There we go. Okay, so I hope you can see that. Okay, so if you're able to see that right there, I can make it bigger. Hold on. So I snuck this off the internet. It does not belong to me. I did not create it. but it is the Hawkins scale of consciousness. There's a bunch of these online. So if you just Google something like the vibrational scale or emotional scale, you should be able to find a bunch of them, and they all kind of say the same thing, but with different graphics. So what I wanted to talk about, if you can see down in the bottom right here, is when we are in that lack matrix, these are the things that we're doing. We're in the green, we're in the getting by, and often in the suffering stage. And so if you look over to the left of those colors, you can see that some of the emotions you feel there might be, apathy, it might be fear, it might be anger, it might be guilt, shame. We don't feel big. We don't feel empowered. We don't feel like, yes, I can take on the world, or gosh, I can totally create my own happiness, joy, and abundance. So I linked into Abraham Hicks when I first started on my healing journey, and they would talk about the law of attraction all the time. There's the movie The Secret based on the book The Secret. Lots of people talk about the law of attraction, and it goes back in history to, like, gosh, there's so many people that have talked about it. But Abraham Hicks was what I would listen to on YouTube each day, and she would talk all the time. She would channel messages about just, you are what you attract what you are, essentially. So if you are in the getting by mode, you're going to attract getting by, essentially. But she would talk about just feeling good, just feeling good, just feel good, and then you'll attract good. Like, the better you can feel, the more abundance you'll attract. And at the time I was like, gosh darn it, like, I get it, but how do I get from like orange to purple? I mean, like, And there are definitely moments in a day where you'll spike up and feel really good, after a nice conversation, or if some outside thing would bless me in some way, I don't know, something would happen and I'd be like, oh my gosh, that was great, I got a great parking spot. Then yeah, I would bounce up to feeling good. But to stay up here in the higher vibrational states was hard, because I was going through a really hard healing time in my life. Down here in this space is, it's okay to be down there. That was the other thing I didn't understand. I thought I was doing something wrong by being down in this space. And then by feeling like I was doing something wrong, I was then feeling shame. And guess what? That just kept me right down here. Look how low shame is. It's the lowest vibration on this chart. So in not being able to do what was being told to me by this law of attraction theory, I was like doubling down on my shame and like my low vibration. And I didn't realize it at the time. So it's important to be down here sometimes, because sometimes we are just, we're just down. We're just in a part where we're healing and we're trying to go through some of these things. And I think that the awakening process that happens for so many people is that we get thrown down into the pits so that we can deal with our mess, like all the stuff that we've allowed, all the lies that we've allowed, so that we can grow from there. Sometimes we do need to dip in here and actually deal with the stories. And like I was just describing, those shadow contracts, the way that we've agreed to things in our society that are keeping us down. So there is a necessity to get into this part right here, to get into some of these things. Why do I feel anger? Why do I feel grief? Like, what are the things I've never allowed myself to actually tap into, to actually feel the full feeling of grief? Because in order to heal it, you got to feel it. So there's a necessity to get down here sometimes and deal with that, but there's also ways to climb up the ladder. And so our resonance, like I said, we're constantly kind of taking in information from outside of us. Looking at this chart, if you think about today we are in late November, close to Thanksgiving of 2020. If you consider the world around us right now, if you live in America or in very many places in the world, we are facing this pandemic, this health pandemic. I'm not going to go into names because I don't want to trigger people with that thing, but we're in the middle of that. And if you can see where we are being asked to be is in getting by, in suffering. We are told over and over again that we are suffering. This is bad. This is scary. We are sick. You could hurt some other people, which is shame, by the way. Do your part, wear a mask, don't get together with your family. I mean, talk about keeping people in low vibration. The message we are hearing every time we turn on the news is, you are in low vibration and you ought to be, because this is where we are right now. It's almost like you were giving zero permission for feeling good. I don't see it anywhere outside of me right now. I only see it with people that I'm intentionally tapped into, but feeling good is like not even allowed right now, because it's like we're in this mourning grieving process. And then if you put on top of that the political atmosphere that's going on right now, everything is about like separation, anger, hate, This side hates that side hates this side. We are so down on the bottom of the scale right now, at least as an American population. And that's not good, because that is all being based in fear. And the way that how do I say this? The way that we will free ourselves, like I free me, you free you, she frees her, he frees him, is by each one of us saying, I do not agree to being in this dynamic. I am a sovereign free being, and I am going to do what feels really good to me. I'm going to feel good. I am going to feel well. I am the healthiest thing here on this earth. I am abundant. Anyway, there's ways to get yourself to feel good. And if we could all, as a collective, stop agreeing to being at the bottom of this spectrum, and instead doing what needs to happen within ourselves, and then within our closest relationships, our relationship with money, our relationship with the government, our relationship with our neighbors, our relationship with our children, our parents, everybody. If we could do what would be best for us in our small microcosm, each one of us doing that would affect the macro. I'm totally off on a tangent right now, but I feel like I'm supposed to say this for some reason, so just letting it flow. Whew. So if you look at how we can do that, the emotions that we can tap into are again listed right there next to the arrow that says love. So feeling joy, feeling acceptance, feeling even just neutrality. Like if we could just say, hey, I'm not going to pick a side on this right now, or I'm not going to buy into either one of these things. That is a better feeling than being in the polarization of hate, anger, resentment, disappointment, any of that stuff. So really quickly, I also wanted to show how, so I talked before a little bit about how when you are taking in information from outside, you feel kind of powerless. You kind of feel like, okay, my happiness is based on what's happening outside of me. Now, going back to that analogy of when we're children, if the world outside of us was all just high vibrational, if that were the case, if we were purely just beings who took in from outside, it's not true, but if we assume for a moment that it is, if we assume that we are beings that just take in from the outside and that's the truth that we're told, think about the world that we live in today. If that is the case, then what are you going to feel inside? I mean, if we are born like this in a world that's based on suffering and getting by, then all of your programs inside of yourself, all of the energy that you resonate with, everything that happens to you each day, it's almost like Groundhog Day, over and over and over again, you're going to be stuck in a loop of getting by, suffering, getting by, suffering, getting by, suffering. If, however, we're born into a world of abundance and being well taken care of and well loved, then we're up here. We're up here in the flow state. We feel good. We feel abundant. We feel peace and love and joy. Now, quick tangent here. If you just look at society in general and you look at the people who are living in rural areas with low income, or in countries where, a third world country, they're stuck in this loop. How on earth are they ever going to get out of that loop? If you look instead at some of the families, and I've been privy to this because I've kind of been all over this map when it comes to my life in general, people I interact with. I have a lot of friends who are really, really prosperous. Like they live really good lives. And then if you look at some of, let's say some of like the singers or people who do really well in their businesses, and then they have children, their children grow up like this. They grow up in big houses where they feel safe and loved, and they get all the toys they want, all the books they want. And hopefully there's people around who have lots of time and energy to dedicate to that child's well-being and listening to them and helping them feel seen. And so it's kind of like, well, how do those kids ever not do well? If they're like born into this super supportive family, of course they're going to do well. And so we've got this going on in our social structure where some people are just born into a loop of suffering and getting by, and some people are kind of born into the loop of flow. And that's only based on this idea of everything outside affecting us on the inside. So here's the thing. If we could teach our children, if you could learn from a young age that no matter what you were born into on that scale, no matter what your environment is around you, you have a massive technology, a massive skill where you get to create your own energy. You get to choose how you feel every single day and every single moment. It would change everything. it wouldn't even matter if you didn't have much. And there's been examples of this throughout history too, of people who grew up, in really poor homes or without parents or whatever, and they still do really, really well. Somehow that person had this drive. They had tapped into the truth inside of themselves where they were a creator. And they might have tapped into that energy out of absolute necessity because they just couldn't possibly stand the concept of being stuck where they were stuck, and they needed something to catapult them out of it. So whatever the reason was, they figured out how to move up. So I'm going to give an example of two examples describing how where you are on this scale affects your resonance, and then how that is affecting the world outside of you and what you're taking in. So how the interaction between you and your outside world is, right? So 2 days ago, I was having a really good day and then checked my phone, and a couple of people had sent me videos on some political stuff that's going on, and the videos had very depressing tones to them. It felt very discouraging. It felt like there was struggle. It felt like there was corruption. It felt like there were lies. And oh my gosh, the energy that I felt when I was feeling into all of these videos that I was, voluntarily watching and buying into. But I watched them for, let's say, 10 minutes. And in those 10 minutes, I went from feeling like I was up here in blue to absolutely orange. Like I was contracted. See these words on the right too, expanded and contracted. I contracted, my body actually kind of like sank, and I kind of got like depressed and sad. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with our world, man? Like, what is going on? Very, very negative emotions. And then we began going out to dinner, and we chose a restaurant, and we walked in. And because I was feeling like such crap, even though I had made a reservation for a certain table, we walked in and she gave us a different table, which annoyed me because I was like, I just called 20 minutes ago and apparently gave away my table to that dude. Stuck us in like a crap table in the corner of the bar. And then our waiter came over, who I didn't even think was our waiter, put down 2 glasses of water. I looked at him. He did not look clean. His apron was dirty. His fingers were dirty. He had long, shaggy hair over his mask. He was touching his mask as he talked to us. He walked away. I had ordered a drink. I thought that he was going to tell the bartender to make it. I happen to know the bartender, and so I trust him. This dude started making it instead, and it was like he stuck his finger in his ear for a second before he touched my cucumber that went on my toothpick that went in my drink. And I was so bitter. I just sat there and I was so mad. I actually got to grumpy. And I was like, I don't understand how I can make a reservation for dinner, and within a 20-minute period, I come here and like everything's falling to crap. It's all terrible. So we ate dinner, tried to make the most of the dinner or whatever, kind of salvaged that situation, and came home, and my stomach hurt for the rest of the night. And I was like, God, so the food I consumed was like tainted with this negative energy that I was emitting. I mean, granted, the situation outside of me wasn't great either, but I was attracting that situation. The chances that I went into a restaurant that I go to all the time and was waited on by somebody I've never seen before, who was by far not fitting with the rest of the crew. Like everyone else is very clean cut. They seem to be careful about their hygiene, especially during this, time, our health time. The fact that he was our guy, and that, I mean, the whole thing was like laughable now that I look back on it, because I created that with my resonance. I didn't create it. And this is the confusion I always had with the law of attraction. I was like, I'm not creating it. Like, I don't wish bad things to myself. I don't wish bad things for anybody. I am always wishing for goodness, but it's different. It's not just what you're wishing for with your mind. It's who you are being. What is your actual feeling? So it goes from being a mind thing to a heart thing. And that's what I think the lack matrix has kept us from, is knowing that we emit with our heart. If you've ever looked into the Heart Math Institute and the work that they do with how strong the resonance is coming out of our heart versus our mind, our whole life we've been, in school being told that the mind, that the head is the strongest thing. It is really, really strong and powerful, but the heart is even more powerful. So the emotions that we bring to any situation are so important in deciding our resonance. So if you are going through a very depressing time in your life, a very hard time in your life, post-divorce, post-death, if you've lost a job, if somebody's really sick, you are going to be emitting. Your resonance is likely going to be, not always, but likely going to be a low vibe. It just is, because that's where you're at. And that means that for a while, until you're able to pull yourself out of that, you're going to probably be attracting stories and situations around you that match that resonance. That night when we went out to dinner, I completely attracted similar resonance. I completely attracted frumpy dumpy, depressing, unclean, dirty, corrupt, even like if you think about like a corrupt plate of food or like a corrupt drink, tainted, like it's hilarious actually when I think about it now. If I compare the adjectives about how my dinner experience was to the adjectives describing what I had been watching on TV, they absolutely match up. And so what we're experiencing is important, but it's often that we're putting it out of resonance, and that's why we're getting that experience back. And I really didn't understand that for a long time because I thought it was all coming from my mind, and I wasn't realizing that it was more of an energy thing. And I also didn't realize that it's okay to let that gradually change. When I would listen to those Abraham Hicks conversations, I would think that there was something I could do in a heartbeat to change it. And I was like, why can't I just shift out of this? Like, what's wrong with me? Back to shame, back to low vibe. I realized over time, sometimes things just take time. It takes time to gradually pull yourself up this scale, especially when you're going through a traumatizing time. So really quickly, this is the last thing I just want to say today. I know I'm blabbering on for quite a long time, but I feel passionate about this. So today, this is my last story of the day. Today, my daughter said, hey, Mom, can you do my hair before school? And I said, absolutely. We went upstairs. I was braiding her hair for her. She had the drawer pulled out where the brushes and hair things go. And I don't even know how I did this, but I somehow slammed my shin bone right onto the corner of the drawer that was pulled out. And when I tell you the pain, I mean, it sounds silly, but the pain that we feel when we are just moving our body, I think we don't realize how much force we use to do things like walk, or I don't even know what I was doing when I hit the thing, but I used so much force that the drawer, like the point of the drawer made this like indentation in my shin. Like, and the pain was going down my shin bone into my foot and up and out. I mean, it was like massive pain for this teeny little part where it had actually made contact. And I was like, oh my God, I was in so much pain. And I didn't necessarily attach to the pain. I didn't attach it to some bad story, because we were having fun and I was doing her hair and there was no malice involved. I wasn't like grumpy. It wasn't slamming things around because I had a fit. It was just like an accident that happened out of just being silly. I'm going to close the scale off for a second because I think you guys probably have it memorized in your head. Okay, cool. So so I slammed it, had all this pain. We got in the car. I drove the kids to school. I was driving with that leg, it was on my right leg. And I was like, gosh, this thing is hurting. My daughter even said, Mom, make sure you go home and put ice on that thing because she really slammed it. And I was like, yeah, I probably will. We'll see. But on the way home, I was listening to the radio and they said that we should listen to one of the country music stars has a song and he played it for his daughter. And they were saying, check out his Instagram because it's on there. So I checked out his Instagram when I pulled into my driveway, legs still throbbing. And I watched this video, and it was a video of him with his little girl, and he was having her watch on his phone the music video, or him like recorded playing a song that he dedicated to her that was about like having a little girl and how special that is. And so she was like, oh, Daddy. And it was really sweet. And it took me from being in pain, it completely distracted me to, oh my God, that's so beautiful. There's so much love in this one little Instagram video that's like 45 seconds long or whatever. And I immediately, not even consciously, forgot about the pain in my leg and just stayed in this story. I watched it like 2 or 3 times. I was like, oh my God, I love her little voice. And it's so beautiful. It's so loving. Like to witness their little moment where he was sharing this with her in their bed and she's in her jammies. It was precious. And then I happened to scroll a little bit farther through his Instagram feed and I saw this. And so by the time I watched this video, and again, I had no idea any of this was going on, but by the time I watched this video, my pain was completely gone after this. And so I want to show you the video so that you see why. Let me see if I can just find it quick. Here it is. All right. Hopefully the volume is on. Let me see if I can do it.
I can't do it.
Okay, try not.
I can't.
Try not to laugh.
Okay, so I went from being in complete pain, if you think back to that emotional scale, complete pain, and I jumped all the way up without even realizing it was happening to joy and love. And literally, I came in my house and I was like, why was I coming in here again? It was to get ice. I had no need for the ice. Like I was healed through raising my vibration, like literally changing what I was focusing on instead of focusing on the pain inside of my leg and trying to fix it. I don't know, just somehow by witnessing something that was so full of love and joy. And I mean, those kids giggling like that is just, it's just like pure, innocent love. I mean, watching that alone was so healing to me. So thank you to Tyler for posting those things on your Instagram page. I don't even follow Tyler. Like that was totally a divine gift from God. And it's the reason I'm sitting down doing this conversation with you today is because through having that experience this morning, I just started thinking about my resonance and I was like, wow, what a major difference it makes when we are changed from within. Now, granted, that was a video that I watched outside of myself, but the change happened inside of me. And it was my willingness to click on that and to be willing to just fall in love with the love that was being shown to me on those videos. So I think that what I want to leave with today, I think I've covered everything that I took notes on. I was frantically typing my notes earlier today, is that our resonance is everything. It is by far our magic. It is our technology. How we resonate matters more than anything else. And sometimes it's important to go through a process of figuring out how to resonate better, how to resonate differently. And it's not just always a matter of choosing to feel good. Like I was told just choose to feel good and it's going to happen. Wow, that came with a lot of shame and a lot of self-punishment because it wasn't working for me. But what had worked for me, what I was learning was that by going into those darker parts, like those deeper, more shadowy contracts that I had and going down into that lower vibration and figuring out where I had gone wrong, like where I had agreed to something that was not really true for me, and allowing myself to dissolve those contracts, like dissolve the ways that I was connected to the lack matrix, dissolve the way that I was willing to see myself as worthy, the way that I was willing to dissolve, gosh, pretty much all of the agreements that I had with the lack matrix, what it means to be a human being and to be feeling good. Like, why do I think that I need this stuff, this way, these things, these, I don't know, labels, whatever it was, to feel like I was happy? You know, what would happen if I just said, simply the fact that I was created magic. It's just magic. Thank you, God, for doing that. You know? Okay, I'm going off on tangents. My mind is just whirring away. So I'm going to go take a few minutes to calm myself down and kind of conclude this within myself. I hope that when you walk away from this conversation today, you will realize that, you know, being an empath, especially, is it's a fine line to walk between what you're taking in from outside and what you're putting out. So just being cautious to not just take everything in and allow that to make you feel like you don't have power anymore. You can take in, but just know what to do with that. Know how much you're taking in from the outside. And even if you're not an empath, just, you know, just anybody who is interacting with the world as it is today, like right now, it's like a weird dynamic out there right now. So just be really careful about what you are taking in. Like what are you ingesting from around you that you are accepting as truth? Because when we take things in from the outside and we automatically accept them, it's often that we're filing it into the old program that we've been used to for so many years. And so just maybe being cautious about how you are interacting with your resonance and remembering that you can establish your own resonance. And that is where you find all the things that you're seeking outside of yourself. You find them within your own resonant self. Okay. Have an awesome day, everyone. Peace out.